I thought taking a job as her assistant would change my career. I never expected it to change who I loved. When my boss closed her office door, my entire world tilted. Lesbian love. You must be the new executive assistant. The woman behind the glass desk didn't bother to stand. She didn't need to. Authority just radiated off her. Sharp black suit, dark hair twisted into a sleek knot, the city skyline framed behind her like it was hers personally. Yes, I'm Lila Hayes. My voice wobbled. Excellent. First 10 seconds and I already sounded like a malfunctioning speaker. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, more like she'd found something quietly amusing. Relax, Lila. You're not at a firing squad. I'm Avery Quinn. Of course she was. Founder and creative director of Quinn Studio, the Avery Quinn whose TED Talk I'd doom-scrolled 3 times before bed last night. The Avery Quinn whose face was on half the magazine covers in the lobby. It's an honor to be here, I blurted, then winced at how earnest it sounded. Avery's gaze lowered to my hands where I clutched my portfolio like it was a life raft. Breathing is free, you know, she said. Highly recommended. I'll look into that, I muttered. Her eyes, a cool gray, flicked back to my face. They were too observant. I felt like she'd already taken me apart and rearranged all my internal folders. You came highly recommended, she said. Your references practically wrote love letters. Heat crawled up my neck. They're generous. I just work hard. That's why you're here. I don't need perfect. She paused. I need present. Focused. Direct. Present. Right. I could at least pretend. I can do that, I said, forcing myself to meet her gaze. Something in her eyes softened by a fraction. Good. Jenna will walk you through the basics. After lunch, you'll shadow me. My calendar is intense. I saw, I said before I could stop myself. It looked like a game of Tetris played by a sadist. Her brow arched. I admire the efficiency, I added quickly. Now the smile was real, brief, sharp, dangerous. Careful, Hayes. Someone might think you're trying to charm your boss. My heart did something stupid in my chest. I just talk too much when I'm nervous. You'll get used to me, Avery said, turning back to her screen. Everyone does. I wasn't sure if that was a promise or a warning. By noon, I knew 3 things. 1. Quinn Studio ran on caffeine, last-minute miracles, and Avery's impossible standards. 2. Everyone was slightly afraid of her. 3. I was slightly afraid of her. And something else I didn't want to name. Copy on the product brief? Jenna asked, thrusting a stack of color-coded folders at me. Got it, I said. Client deck at 2, shot list at 4, investor call at 5. Don't let Avery murder the art director even if he deserves it. Jenna snorted. You'll fit in. Everywhere I went, Avery's name floated in the air. Quinn wants that revised. Quinn hated the mock-up. Quinn moved the deadline, again. She didn't yell. She didn't have to. Her disappointment landed harder than most people's anger. By the time I brought her afternoon coffee, black, extra hot, like a threat, I'd watched her glide from meeting to meeting, the center of her own steady orbit. People leaned toward her without realizing it. I was not going to be one of those people, I told myself. I knocked once and stepped into her office. Come in, she said, without looking up. You survived the morning. Barely. I set the coffee on her desk. I thought the brief for the Marrow campaign was confusing, but then the copywriter's notes tried to kill me. That's dramatic, Avery said, though her mouth twitched. Sit. I obeyed, perching on the chair opposite her. She studied her screen for another few seconds, then finally looked up. Those gray eyes caught me and held. How are you actually finding things? She asked. I blinked. You mean, besides the slow, creeping terror? She gave a quiet huff of laughter. Besides that? It's a lot, I admitted. But it's the kind of a lot I like. controlled chaos. Good, she said. You kept up this morning. Most new assistants flail for at least a week. Is that your version of a compliment? I asked before my brain could stop my mouth. Her gaze sharpened. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd overstepped. Then, careful, Hayes, she murmured. Someone might think I'm distracting you. I mean, my pulse skidded. Maybe I'm the one getting distracted. The words slipped out too easily, and silence dropped between us. Avery didn't look away. There was a new quality in her eyes now, something intent, unreadable. Tell me if I'm making you uncomfortable, she said slowly. I expect professionalism, but I'm not interested in making my staff miserable. You're not, I said, voice lower than before. I'm just not used to people looking at me like that. Like what? Like you see through my skin, like you noticed me before I walked in. Like you're something I should never want and can't stop watching. Like I'm not temporary, I said instead. Most of my jobs have felt like placeholders. Her gaze softened, just a little. You're here because I chose you. That doesn't sound temporary to me. My chest tightened. I'll, get the updated schedule printed, I said, standing too fast. Running away won't help you focus either, Avery said, voice mildly amused. I'm not running. I edged toward the door. I just needed air. Her eyes lingered on me, curious. Don't stay gone too long. Too late. Part of me was already somewhere I wasn't prepared to name. The office, emptied slowly, like a tide receding. Interns first, then designers, then the exhausted copy team. By 7, it was mostly just the cleaning crew and the lights of the city bleeding in through the glass walls. I was still at my desk, wrestling with Avery's calendar. I'd never seen a schedule so packed with color blocks. It looked like the inside of a beehive. You know we don't pay overtime to people who martyr themselves, right? I jumped. Avery leaned against the divider, tie loosened, jacket draped over one arm. The Ice Queen look had melted around the edges. I'm just getting familiar with your schedule, I said. Also trying to prevent at least 3 future breakdowns. Whose? She asked. Mine, or the team's? Both? I offered. Her lips curved. Come on, walk with me. Is this a firing walk? I joked weakly, standing. If it were, I'd let HR do it, she said dryly. I have standards. We crossed the open office together, past empty desks and screens gone black. Our reflections walked ahead of us in the glass. You adjusted a recurring meeting I've had for 2 years, Avery said as we stepped into the corridor. Why? My stomach clenched. Is that a problem? Answer the question. I swallowed. You had strategy and creative check-ins back-to-back on Mondays. People were dragging notes from one to the other. I split them. Strategy on Monday, creative on Wednesday. I figured it would stop everyone from mentally hemorrhaging. We reached the small balcony at the end of the hall. Floor-to-ceiling windows slid open to the night. The city sprawled out like circuitry lit in gold. And why did you move my one standing lunch? She pressed. You weren't eating, I said. You had lunch blocked off, but you kept booking over it. I put you on a client call right before it and a design review right after. Logistically, you'd have to stay put in the cafe downstairs. It forces you to sit for at least 20 minutes. Silence stretched. I'd gone too far. I knew it. Then, you redesigned my day to trick me into basic self-care. That sounds manipulative when you say it like that. Her voice was quiet. It sounds thoughtful. I turned to the glass railing, pretending to watch the headlights crawling along the freeway below. My heart was beating too hard. I like systems, I said. Everybody runs better when the gears aren't grinding themselves to death. Avery stepped closer, her shoulder nearly brushing mine. Almost. You talk like you're not part of that everybody, she said. You think you're just here to oil the machine. That is the job description, I said lightly. It's not mine, she said. The wind tugged at a strand of my hair, blowing it across my cheek. Before I could move, Avery lifted her hand and tucked it behind my ear, fingers warm against my skin. My breath stopped. Tell me if this is crossing a line, she said, voice lower. My thoughts scattered like papers in a hurricane. I don't know where the lines are yet. Her thumb brushed a path just below my ear, lingering there, and my knees honestly considered giving up. Then we draw them, she murmured. Together. Explicitly. The word together did something dangerous inside me. I forced myself to step back, breaking the contact. The chill of the night rushed in where her warmth had just been. This isn't how my first day was supposed to go, I said, trying to laugh, failing a little. Her eyes were no longer cool. They held something rawer now, something conflicted. Then why? Avery asked quietly. Does it feel like exactly where you should be? I had no answer. Just the loud, relentless truth pounding against my ribs. I didn't want the moment to end. That was exactly what scared me. The next morning, I woke up with my stomach in knots, and Avery's hand at my jaw replaying in high definition inside my head. Nope, I told my reflection. We're not doing this. We need this job. We like rent. We like food. My reflection did not look convinced. By the time I reached the office, I'd rehearsed 3 different speeches in my head. One professional, one passive-aggressive, and one that sounded suspiciously like begging my libido to calm down. Avery was already there, of course. She glanced up as I entered, eyes unreadable. Morning, Hayes. Morning. I set her coffee down, extra careful not to brush her fingers. You have a 9:30 with Marrow, 11 with the social team, and… Sit down, she said. My brain sprinted straight to panic. Did something go wrong with the calendar? Sit, she repeated, a touch gentler. I obeyed. Avery folded her hands on the desk. For the first time since I'd met her, she actually seemed unsure. Last night, she said, on the balcony. My pulse jumped. Right, about that. I crossed a line, she said, cutting me off. I'm your boss. You just started. The power imbalance is real. I know better. The measured way she said it hurt more than if she'd snapped. I didn't exactly shut it down, I admitted. That's not the point, she said. Responsibility sits with me. The part of me that lived on instincts and feelings wanted to protest. The part that had sat through mandatory HR videos knew she was right. So what do we do? I asked quietly. We make it boring, she said. We spell things out. You're here because you're good at your job. That stays true no matter what clouds your judgment. Or mine. Her gaze met mine, steady. There are policies, she continued. If anything were to happen beyond a strictly professional relationship, it would require disclosure, HR oversight. Probably a reassignment, so I'm not directly supervising you. It would be complicated. Messy. Each word was like a careful brick in a wall between us. I nodded. Okay, so we keep it professional. We try, she said, so softly I almost missed it. Silence stretched. I forced myself to breathe evenly. If you ever feel like I'm using my position to push for something you don't want, she said, I need you to tell me. And if that feels impossible, there are other channels. I want you safe here, Lila. That matters more than whatever this is. Her hand flicked in a vague gesture between us. My chest ached. This is nothing, I lied. Her lips twitched, a hint of bitter amusement. You're a terrible liar. Occupational hazard, I said. Assistants learn to make the uncomfortable sound palatable. I don't need you to protect me from discomfort, she said. I need you to tell me the truth. The truth was loud and inconvenient. I swallowed. I like working here. I like working with you. I don't want to screw that up because my brain short-circuits whenever you stand too close. Her eyes darkened, then shuddered again. Noted. Heat shot up my neck. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, she said, exhaling. All right. We're aligned. We keep things professional. If that changes, we handle it the right way or not at all. Right, I said. Professional. She nodded once, crisp. Good. Now tell Marrow they can't push the launch another week and expect us to conjure a miracle. Even my studio has limits. The conversation ended, just like that. But the way she avoided brushing my hand when I passed her the phone, that said everything we'd just agreed to ignore. Weeks blurred. We found a rhythm. Early mornings, late nights, frantic afternoons full of emergency meetings and last-minute creative changes. I learned her moods. The sharp silence that meant a campaign wasn't working. The precise questions that meant she was secretly impressed. The wry comments that surfaced only when she felt safe. The attraction didn't fade. It just learned to dress itself in professionalism. Slide 12 is weak, Avery murmured during one client presentation, voice low enough only I could hear. Too much copy. I leaned slightly closer to the laptop, fingers flying over the trackpad. I can hide it and renumber on the fly. Do it. Her shoulder brushed mine, barely there. You're terrifyingly efficient. Flattery will get you more meeting slots, I muttered. Her mouth curved, just a little. We never talked about the balcony again. But tiny moments kept stacking up. Her hand hovering near the small of my back as we squeezed past each other in crowded doorways. The way her gaze softened when I defended a junior designer in a meeting. How she always made sure I had eaten, even when she was running solely on caffeine and steel will. One night, after an absurd 16-hour day preparing for a rebrand pitch, we ended up alone, in the office again. Rain streaked the windows, city lights smudged and soft. You should go home, I said, rubbing my eyes. You're starting to growl at your screen. It deserves it, she said. This tagline is an insult. I stepped behind her chair, peering at the monitor. What about flipping it? Instead of own your edge, something like your edge, unapologetic. She stilled. Slowly, she typed it out. We stared at the words together. That's better, she said. Cleaner. More honest. If the VP hates it, it was your idea, I said. You really are ruthless, she murmured. She leaned back, and suddenly I was half wrapped around her chair, my hands braced on the desk on either side of her. We both froze. Her head tipped back just enough that if I looked down, our faces would be inches apart. The air shifted, thickened. Avery, I said, a warning to both of us. Her gaze flicked to my mouth and then away. You're right. Go home, Hayes. My hands didn't move. Lila, she said quieter. Please. The please did it. I stepped back like the desk had burned me. Right, I said, voice hoarse. See you tomorrow. As I walked away, I heard her mutter something under her breath. It took me all the way to the elevator to realize she'd said, Gravity is getting really inconvenient. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. No storm, no screaming match, no scandalous almost kiss caught by security cameras. Just a dumb, boring emergency. The Marrow launch imploded 2 days before it was supposed to go live. Their supply chain company folded overnight. Half their social campaign relied on product shots that now might never exist. The posts are already queued, the social lead said, pale. If we pull them, the algorithm punishes us. If we don't, people will notice they can't buy anything. The room hummed with anxious energy. Everyone looked to Avery. All right, she said, calm as ever. We pivot. Lila, clear my afternoon. Block off 2 hours with social, 2 with creative, 1 with legal. Done, I said, fingers flying over my tablet. The rest of the day was a blur of strategy, damage control, and crisis messaging. By the time the skeleton of a new plan existed, the office was dark outside the war room. Most of the team staggered home. I stayed, wrapping up the last-minute confirmations, pushing updates, rescheduling what tomorrow had been supposed to look like. Finally, around 10, I brought Avery the revised master schedule. She sat alone in the now empty conference room, surrounded by post-its and half-drunk coffee cups, her shoulders bowed in a way I'd never seen before. "Here," I said softly. "Your brain's chaos, but make it pretty." She took the tablet from me and scrolled. "You moved my meeting with Wexler. He'll get over it. The crisis matters more. You rearranged 6 calendars in under an hour." 7, I corrected. "You forgot your own. Again." Her laugh was tired but real. "I don't know how I did this before you." "Poorly," I suggested. "Violently? With interpretive screaming?" "Probably," she said. She set the tablet down and rubbed her temples. In the harsh fluorescent light, the fine lines around her eyes were more visible. So was the exhaustion. Without thinking, I reached out and covered her hand with mine. She went still. "You're allowed to admit this sucks," I said quietly. "Even CEOs are human. Allegedly." Her fingers curled under mine, holding on. "I'm not supposed to lean on my staff," she murmured. "That's not your job." "Too late," I said. "I'm already bracing." The joke landed between us, but something deeper did too. She turned her hand, lacing our fingers together. Simple. Devastating. "Lila," she said. My name sounded like something fragile in her mouth. "We're past pretending this is just ambient." "Ambient?" I repeated, choked laughter escaping me. "That's what we're calling it?" "What do you want?" she asked. No preamble, no deflection. I'd spent weeks trying not to look directly at that question, like it was the sun. "I want you to succeed," I said slowly. "I want this place to keep feeling like I didn't make a mistake by choosing it." Her jaw tightened. "And," I admitted, "I want to stop wondering what it would feel like if you ever actually kissed me, instead of almost doing it, and then changing the subject." Silence slammed down. Her eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, they were blazing. "If I kiss you," Avery said, voice low and steady, "we can't put this back in a box." My heart slammed against my ribs. "It's not in a box now." "We'll have to tell HR," she went on. "I'll have to remove myself as your direct supervisor. There will be rumors. People will say I'm favoring you, or that you slept your way into your job." "I got my job because I'm good at it," I snapped, hurt flaring. "I know that," she said. "You know that." The truth and the story people tell themselves are rarely the same thing. Her fingers tightened around mine. "But I'm not going to pretend I don't want you," she said finally, the words coming out like they'd been dragged through glass. "I'm tired and I'm scared, and this is the first thing in a long time that feels uncalculated." My throat closed. "Then maybe," I said, "for once, we stop calculating." Her gaze searched mine, looking for hesitation, regret, anything. I let her see the fear and the want and the stubborn belief that we could handle the fallout. "Last chance to tell me no," she whispered. "I'm not running this time," I said. She stood, closing the small distance between us. The room shrank, the rest of the world falling away until it was just her and me, and the soft buzz of the fluorescent lights. Her hand lifted, curling gently around the back of my neck. The first press of her mouth to mine was careful, a question. My answer was immediate. The kiss deepened, years of repressed feelings condensed into seconds. She tasted like coffee and exhaustion, and something that felt dangerously like hope. When we finally broke apart, breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. "This isn't how tonight was supposed to go," I whispered. "Then why?" she said, voice rough. "Does it feel like exactly where we're supposed to be?" I didn't have an answer. Just the fierce, terrifying certainty that the moment I'd been scared to want, I didn't want it to end. And this time, I wasn't going to let fear make the decision for me. The second kiss was slower. Less panic, more intention. Her thumb stroked the hollow beneath my ear. My fingers curled into the fabric of her shirt like I could anchor us both there, in that strange quiet where deadlines didn't exist. When we finally separated, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. "Okay," Avery said, voice steadying itself. "We've officially crossed the line. No more pretending we can walk it back." "Kind of hard to walk back from HR will murder us." "Yeah," I said weakly. A laugh scraped out of her. "They won't murder us. They'll just send very long, very disappointed emails." I slid into the chair beside her instead of across from her, our knees brushing. The contact felt revolutionary. "So how does this work?" I asked. "Big picture." "Big picture?" she repeated. "We disclose. I talk to HR first thing tomorrow. I tell them this started now, not 6 weeks ago." "Which is technically true," I said. "The kissing part, at least." "The line moved," she murmured. "They'll insist I'm removed as your direct supervisor. Someone else will manage your workload. Likely a promotion in title so it doesn't look like a demotion." "That sounds like a lot," I said. "It is," she said. "It's also how we do this without building it on lies." Her hand found mine again, fingers interlocking. Every tiny point of contact felt huge. "You can still back out," she added quietly. "Walk away now and pretend this was just a moment of bad judgment. I'll take the blame." "This wasn't bad judgment," I said. "Just scary judgment." She huffed. "That's not a category." "It is now." We sat in silence for a long moment, watching our reflections in the dark conference room glass. Two women side by side, shoulders touching, faces raw and tired and lit by cold office lights. "This room has seen too many crisis meetings," I said finally. "Feels weird that this might be the first good one." Her head tipped toward mine, just enough that our temples brushed. "Ask me again in 6 months." "Fine. In 6 months, if I still work here and we're not buried under HR memos, I reserve the right to say, 'I told you so.'" "Deal," she said. I squeezed her hand once before letting go. "Go home, Quinn." "You too. I still have to send those confirmations." "I'll walk you out after," she said, already reaching for her tablet. "No more leaving the building alone at midnight." "Is that a CEO directive?" I teased. Her gaze flicked to my mouth again, then away. "Call it a personal one." The word personal warmed me all the way to the elevator. The next morning felt like waiting for test results. I spent the first hour at my desk pretending to care deeply about Inbox Zero, while Avery barricaded herself in a conference room with HR. Jenna swiveled in her chair and eyed the closed door. "You think someone finally told her she's not allowed to schedule meetings at 7:30 in the morning?" "Don't speak against our God," I muttered. "You've really drunk the Kool-Aid," she said. "I respect it." My eyes flicked back to the conference room. I could see Avery's silhouette through the frosted glass. Sharp posture, precise gestures. The HR rep opposite her looked both nervous and determined. "You okay?" Jenna asked, following my gaze. "You're doing that thing where your face gets all concentrated." "I'm fine," I lied. The door finally opened 45 minutes later. The HR rep left first, clutching a folder. Avery stood in the doorway for a beat, expression unreadable, then crooked a finger at me. "Take over my office?" she said, voice even. "I need 10 minutes with you." It took everything I had not to look guilty as I followed her back to her glass-walled kingdom. Once the door clicked shut behind us, some of the tension dropped from her shoulders. "Well?" I asked, hovering by the chairs. "Well," she said, "we're not being banished to the shadow realm." I sagged in relief. "That's good. I like existing." There are conditions, she went on, leaning against her desk. 1. Full disclosure. I told them we crossed the line last night. They were grateful for the transparency. Did they ask if you'd been plotting to seduce your assistant from day one? I asked. Her mouth twitched. They asked if I understood the risks. I said yes. And the other conditions? I pressed. You're getting a new title, she said. Studio Operations Coordinator. You'll still do a lot of what you're doing now, but your direct supervisor will be Marcus, not me. Marcus, the head of production. Kind, perpetually rumpled, allergic to confrontation but brilliant at logistics. That's not bad, I said slowly. Is this an actual promotion or a fake one so people don't talk? A real one, she said. With a pay bump. You've already been doing half this work anyway. Warmth seeped through the anxiety. And what did you tell Marcus? That I was moving you under him because your skills are wasted just managing my calendar, she said. Which also happens to be true. And the part where you're dating you? She finished, a faint, almost shy smile appearing. HR will handle the official documentation. For everyone else, we keep it simple until there's something solid to share. Something solid, I repeated. Like, more than one kiss in a crisis room. She pushed away from the desk and stepped closer. I plan on significantly increasing that number. But yes, we go slow. Careful. No performative PDA in the hallway. My heart did a ridiculous flip. So, just the non-performative kind in private? Haze, she warned, though there was no heat behind it. Right, professional. Serious. I straightened, biting back a grin. I can do slow. I'm great at slow. I once took 6 months to decide whether to buy a new couch. Please don't compare this to furniture, she said, exasperated affection threading her voice. Fine. This is at least major appliance level, I said. And this is why HR wanted to know if I was sure, she muttered. Still, when she reached out and smoothed my collar, her touch lingered for one extra heartbeat. Go let Marcus know he's inherited you, she said. And Lila? Yeah? If anyone gives you grief, they deal with me. The simple, fierce certainty in her voice settled something deep inside my chest. I'll keep a list, I said. Her eyes glinted. Good girl. Heat shot straight through me. I escaped before I could dissolve into a puddle on her office floor. Marcus took the news better than I expected. Quinn's finally sharing? He asked, pushing his glasses up his nose. About time. I was starting to think she'd merge with her calendar and become one with the machine. That's a haunting image? I said, lowering myself into the chair opposite his desk. You're already doing ops work, he went on, waving a hand. This just makes it official. We'll need to go over project pipelines, vendor lists, the usual fun. Fun? I echoed. My favorite flavor. He squinted at me. You all right? You look like you're either about to cry or pass out. I'm fine, I said. Just a lot of change in 24 hours. Yeah, well, he sighed. This place runs on a steady diet of chaos. At least you're getting a raise out of it. It was surreal, how ordinary the conversation was. No mention of HR, no insinuations, just a shift in org chart lines. Back at my new, slightly bigger desk, my inbox pinged with a calendar invite tagged, Relationship Disclosure Doc, please review. I clicked it open. Dry legal language filled the screen, an acknowledgement of voluntary nature, affirmation of consent, understanding of power dynamics, and recourse if things went sideways. My name and Avery's were listed like two variables in an equation. Halfway through reading, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Unknown. Assuming HR has already ambushed you. I frowned, then realized. Avery. She must have found my number in my file. Me. Ambushed is one word for it. I prefer gently mauled by paperwork. Unknown. You're taking this well. Me. I got a promotion in the CEO. Hard to complain. I hit send before I could second guess it. A minute passed. Then, Avery. You don't have me? My stomach dropped until the next bubble appeared. Avery. We're choosing this. Present tense. On purpose. Something in my chest unclenched. Me. Okay, I'm choosing this. On purpose. Even the terrifying parts. Avery. Good. Me too. I stared at the tiny words until they blurred. Outside my glass partition, the studio buzzed with its usual energy. No one looked at me differently. No one knew. Inside my little square of the world, everything had tilted. The first time the rumor mill caught a whiff, it was almost funny. I was in the kitchen making the office's 5th pot of coffee when 2 designers slipped in, mid-whisper. I'm telling you, the vibe is weird, said one, Sonia, purple hair, eyeliner sharp enough to kill. She never used to look at anyone like that during meetings. Quinn doesn't look at people like that. The other scoffed. She's a sleek corporate panther, not a human being with feelings. She's not a robot, Sonia argued. Did you see her in the rebrand meeting? When Lila stood up for that juniors concept? Quinn went full soft eyes for like 3 seconds. My hand paused over the sugar jar. Nah, the other said. Quinn's married to her job. Exactly, Sonia said. What if she's cheating on the job now? They rounded the island and froze when they saw me. Hey, I said, forcing my face into something that wasn't a guilty grimace. Coffee? Sonia's eyes widened. We were just saying how, the Marrow Rescue campaign was brilliant. I raised an eyebrow. Sure you were. She made a small strangled sound and grabbed a mug. As they left, Sonia shot me one last speculative glance. It didn't feel hostile, just curious. Later, I found a message from Avery. Avery. Sonia cornered me at the printer, asked if I believed in workplace romance. Me. What did you say? Avery. That I believed in proper reporting channels and healthy boundaries. Me. CEO by day, HR poster child by night. Avery. You joke, but I'm painfully aware of every line now. Me. Same. For what it's worth, if people start talking, I don't hate being seen standing next to you. The typing dots appeared, then vanished. Appeared again. Avery. Don't make it sound charming. I'm trying to be responsible. Me. You can be responsible and charming. I've seen it. Avery. You're biased. Me. Obviously. There was a pause. Avery. Are you free tonight? My heart stuttered. Me. Define free. Avery. Not stuck at your desk, fantasizing about reorganizing the project board. Me. I feel attacked. Avery. Good. Dinner? Somewhere without clients, staff, or Wi-Fi. Me. Is this our first official date? Avery. Yes. I stared at the word until warmth spread all the way to my fingertips. Me. Send me the details and no spreadsheets. Avery. You're limiting my love language. Me. Bring spreadsheets on the second date. I'm not like other girls. Her reply took a full minute. Avery. You really aren't. For the first time since this started, the fear in the logistics and the complications shrank just enough for excitement to breathe. We were doing this. Messy, deliberate, documented. And even with all the unknowns, I had never felt more exactly where I should be. Dinner turned out to be less intimidating than I expected and more dangerous than I'd planned for. Avery chose a quiet little place tucked between 2 storefronts downtown. Warm lights, close tables, music low enough that you didn't have to shout or pretend you were aloof. No one there knew her as the Avery Quinn. She walked in without armor, hair loose, jacket replaced by a soft gray sweater that somehow made my brain short all the way out. You look, I began, then stopped. She tilted her head. Go on? You look unfair, I finished. To my long-term emotional stability. Her laugh was quick and genuine. It eased something tight in my chest. Sit, she said, pulling out my chair before I could argue. And no shop talk. I didn't agree to that second part. I'll cancel the dessert, she warned. I immediately sat down. Conversation flowed more easily than it ever had in the office. We talked about films we'd rewatched too many times, books we'd lied about finishing, the cities we'd both fled for different reasons. I learned she hated cilantro with a personal vendetta, and that she'd once quit a stable job just because the creative director refused to listen to junior designers. I don't do well in cages, she said, swirling her wine. Explains the empire building, I said. She smiled at that, soft and quiet. What about you? Why assisting? You could be running things somewhere by now. I shrugged. I like seeing the whole machine. I like fixing gaps. People underestimate you when you're the connective tissue. Her gaze sharpened, appreciative. They won't for long. There was an ease growing between us that felt earned, not rushed. When her foot brushed mine under the table, neither of us pulled away. After dinner, we walked instead of rushing apart. City air, cool and clean, wrapped around us as we moved down the sidewalk side by side. This part, I said, breaking the silence. This is where it gets complicated again, right? She glanced at me. Because we're public now? Because now we're choosing each other without a table between us, I said. Feels bigger. Her hand brushed mine, tentative this time. When I didn't pull away, her fingers laced with mine fully. We don't have to sprint, she said. I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm not fragile, I said, then smiled. Just annually overwhelmed. She laughed, squeezing my hand once. Fair. At the corner where we'd separate, she stopped. Streetlight painted her face in gold and shadow. I won't invite you up, she said gently. Not because I don't want to. I swallowed. Because you want to do this right. Yes. My chest ached in the best possible way. Then I'll accept that and still be disappointed. She leaned in, brushing a kiss to my cheek. Slow, deliberate, intimate in a way that made my knees wobble more than anything else could have. Good night, Lila. Good night, Avery. I walked home smiling like an idiot and didn't even try to stop myself. The office reacted exactly the way offices always do. Gradually, indirectly, and with too many Slack emojis. No announcement was made. No memo went out. But Avery stopped pretending she didn't notice me, and people noticed that. She sat closer during meetings, not touching, but aligned. She asked for my input openly now. When my idea stuck, she said my name. Lila's right. We'll pivot. Each time a few eyebrows rose, a few looks were exchanged, but no one challenged it, because the ideas were solid and the work held. Marcus pulled me aside one afternoon. I'm not asking, he said carefully, but I need to check in. I met his eyes. We disclosed. HR's looped in. My work still stands on its own. He studied me for a beat, then nodded. That's all I needed. And then, with a sheepish smile, for what it's worth, she hasn't looked this human in years. I blinked. That was not part of my briefing. Sorry, he said. Occupational hazard. At home, Avery was different too. Softer. Quieter in the evenings. More thoughtful. She texted me photos of her disastrously overwatered plant. She listened when I talked. Not with problem-solving intent, just presence. One night, curled together on my couch, she traced idle shapes on my arm. I don't want to hide you, she said suddenly. I turned to face her. You're not. I mean, eventually, she said. When it's not a headline. When it's just us. The word settled warmly between us. Us sounds good, I said. Low drama. Cooperative. She smiled. Ambitious. There were still hard days. Comments overheard. A client who assumed I was the assistant in a way that meant something uglier than the title itself. Avery burned those moments down quietly, expertly, never overcompensating, never asking me to shrink. And I didn't shrink. I grew into my role, into my confidence, into this strange, grounded affection that didn't feel like a whirlwind but like roots. One evening, weeks later, as we left the office together, openly now, no pretending, we paused at the glass doors. You know, I said, when I started, I was terrified I'd mess everything up. She looked at me, eyes warm and unwavering. You didn't. I squeezed her hand. No, we just changed things. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to mine, right there in the lobby, unapologetic but quiet. Exactly, she murmured. And it turns out, change suits us. For the first time, I believed it completely. We didn't announce anything. There was no speech. No moment where the world formally acknowledged we'd crossed into something permanent. Instead, there were small, stubborn proofs. Avery started leaving the office before burnout etched itself into her shoulders. I stopped apologizing for owning my ideas in rooms that used to intimidate me. People adjusted, not instantly, not perfectly, but enough. Enough that it stopped feeling like we were holding our breath. One night, months later, the studio hosted a low-key celebration for a campaign win. Cheap champagne, catered finger food, laughter echoing off glass walls. Avery stood at the center of it, composed and brilliant as always, but when her hand found mine in the crowd, it stayed there. No one gasped. No one whispered. Sonia just raised her glass and smirked like she'd known all along. Later, after the office emptied and the city lights softened outside the windows, we lingered by the door the way we always did. Unrushed now. You ever think about how close we came to not doing this? Avery asked. All the time, I said. Then I remember how miserable that version of me felt. She nodded. Same. We stepped outside together, the door closing quietly behind us. No drama, no fear. Just the future unfolding one deliberate step at a time. I used to worry that wanting something this steady meant settling. I was wrong. It meant choosing. And this time, when the moment came to end the night, to let go, to walk separate directions, neither of us was afraid anymore. Because we weren't wondering what if. We already knew. The end. Subscribe for more slow burn sapphic romances where one moment changes everything.